TSN has revealed their top 50 NHL free agent list. Mitch Marner at the top of that. Sam Bennett, number 2. Tavares, 3. Nikolai Ehlers, 4. Brock Besser, 5. Other names that are on the list are Aaron Ekblad, Brad Marchand. I mean, there's a bunch of guys that are still playing. But, you know, how would you define this crop compared to other years? And if you take away Marner, I guess, if he decides he's not returning to Toronto, then obviously he's not a part of this program. Like, how much work do you think Tree Living and Company can do via free agency, and how much might they actually have to do via trade if it gets to that point?
Well, I mean, they're going to have to get creative. That's kind of my initial take on things here. And look, I think, you know, put Marner aside just for a moment, and we do expect, you know, he's probably out of the picture here. You know, the Leafs are going to need 2 centermen, I think, behind Austin Matthews. And, you know, it just might be one of those is John Tavares, and there you go, one ready-made solution. But when you look at that board, I mean, you know, once you get past Sam Bennett, it's not too long before you're into, like, P.S. Suter territory. And I say that with respect to P.S. Suter, had a pretty good year in Vancouver, but, you know, wouldn't be what anyone would sort of circle and say that's the kind of guy you want playing second line center for a team trying to win the Stanley Cup. And so, you know, I think the Leafs are going to have to get creative in how they do it, and maybe the trade route does offer some solutions. I mean, certainly, I think that this is poised to be a year where, you know, there's a lot of teams with cap space and needs, and, you know, once you get past the first, say, 10 names on that list, I mean, it goes south in a hurry. And it's not to say they're all bad players, but I think you stop getting out of the idea that they can be, you know, a lot of difference makers in free agency. And so I think the trade market should be pretty ample this year. You know, the one concern I'd have from the Leafs end of things when it comes to trade specifically is just what they have to trade. I mean, obviously they've dealt away a lot of draft capital with their deadline deals the last number of years, the sort of go-for-it deals. You know, maybe there's some pieces within the organization, younger players and the like, that they can use, but I don't think they have as much maybe to get in the trade conversations as some other teams. So, you know, it's not a certain sign of doom. I do think that there's some intriguing players that could help the Leafs be a, you know, very competitive team again next year if they have to patch all those holes and Marner does leave. But, you know, it sets up as a pretty big 5 weeks here leading into July 1st. To make sure they're well positioned to handle all the moving parts that'll come with that.
CJ, you just discussed John Tavares, and it seems like that is basically going to happen. And you mentioned the word creativity. Bringing him back just doesn't seem like it's that creative. Where you just said the words like you need a second line centerman. Well, there's John Tavares sitting right there. Don't you want to look into a different option? They haven't won with him, so why would it be a need or a necessity to bring him back into the fold? I really don't understand it.
I feel like you and I have this out every time I do a hit, O-Dog, but this is what I see. I see a guy who wants to be here, who scored 38 goals this year, 74
I want to
points.
do a lot of stuff too, Chris. I want to do a lot of stuff too, but some people say you're not doing it.
Well, who's your solution, though? I mean, at the end of the day, we have to deal with what's in front of us. Like, I'm not convinced Sam Bennett even becomes a free agent. Even if he does, you want to be paying him the money he's going to be worth. I mean, I just don't know where you find the other players to fill this void. And you have, you know, a player who's still extremely productive sitting right here on the roster who wants to play for your team. I mean, to me, that's a tough thing to pass up. And we'll see what the Leafs do. I mean, I'm not in charge of the team. I just think it's the most obvious and sort of easy next step among all the decisions they have to make.
Well, to jump in here, I think what O's saying, and I don't disagree. Like, if John Tavares wants to come back and the contract looks very affordable, because, again, we can have this argument until we're blue in the face, but if Tavares comes back on a very valued contract, then you go, okay, we don't have to replace 38 goals or maybe 30 goals, you call it. But if, from O's standpoint, if you're looking at it and just looking for a different type of player, a different face, Matt Duchene's the same age. And maybe you can get a guy like Duchene or somebody, a comparable like that.
I'm thinking outside the box, Jamie. Like, I don't know if you can pick Nazem Kadri out of Calgary. I don't know what their plans are with that organ. I'm talking about something like that.
Well, I agree with you, and I'll let CJ weigh in as well. But it's I think you need more down the middle of the ice, like not just replacing John Tavares as a 2. Like if Tavares comes back, he might end up being your 3. you might have to go for Tavares and Kadri and somebody else, or somebody else if you can't get it in a trade. Like, to me, I think Tree has to be creative because, to be honest, Max Domi makes almost $4 million. I didn't think he was very productive this year overall. I mean, you might be looking to move away from players like that as well.
Definitely wasn't a great season for Max. And, I just think you need a better option than him as your third center. And let's face it, I mean, even if they bring Tavares back, and we'll see where the price point lands, I mean, maybe he's basically the third center, and what you're trying to do is upgrade at the 2C spot with someone from the outside.
Right.
That's why it's not going to be – there's not, 12 things at the store here you can go buy if you're Brad Treliving. I think that's why you're right. I mean, maybe trade is a solution. I don't know what you're trading. I think at this point you have to be careful trading some of the younger players. I mean, Easton Cowan's playing right now in the Memorial Cup Finals there this week. I mean, do you want him in a deal? I mean, obviously that's something other teams would value. It's the Leafs are at that tough spot of contention windows where they've just they don't have a ton in the cupboard right now, and they still have to try to find ways to get better, which is no excuse. Other teams do it. The Floridas have done it. They saw 7 guys walk out the door last year 2 days after they won the Stanley Cup, and they still found ways to fill in their roster and have a really deep team today. So, this is where the scouts and the front office makes its money, and this is the time that the Leafs have to uncover some gems. Maybe it won't be obvious players at first, but they find some guys that fit in with what they're trying to do that can have better seasons next year than they've had in the past.
Yeah, that's a big part of it as well. Like, it's not just amateur scouting; you're pro scouting. You got to find players that, quite frankly, and every team is guilty of. They have let go.
Yeah, find a Marchessault, find a Verhaeghe, find something.
Well, they had Verhaeghe, they had Marchman, and they decided they're not going to fit, and they're not alone. That happens with every team, but this again, you can't go back and find and pluck them now. But at one point, Verhaeghe was there for basically anything. Mason Marchman was there for Gino Malgin.
Right.
You got it. Those are trades, the Jose Bautista types, where at the time you look at it and you're like, no, okay, whatever. Then all of a sudden he turns into a player. Like, you got to do it, man. You got to.
Gino Malgin one, boy. I'll take that one to the.
That one was tough.
He was playing last night on World Championship.
The kicker, though, guys, and I'll say it again, not once, twice.
Yeah.
He came back, Gino Malgin.
Europe.
He came back.
The second time was from Europe.
Yeah, and the second time in training camp, he was dancing out there, and everyone was like, I told you about that Gino
Malgin, man.
And then sure as you know what, like 10 days later, it was like, guy can't play.
Yeah.
You know his name is Dennis. Right?
Yes.
I don't
Dennis
care.
Malgin.
I forgot
Gino
his
Malgin.
name was Dennis.
Yeah.
I just Googled Gino Malgin, and I'm like, oh, it's Dennis. I forgot.
I called him Gino Malgin from the day I put eyes on him, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, we got to find the next Gino Malgin up here. That's the role of Brad Treliving.